right. Hey, friends, love isn't something we feel. It's something that really deeply changes us. And if you have ever wondered why the closest relationships you have in your life bring up the deepest wounds, why the people that you love the most can also frustrate you the most, or maybe why love feels harder than you thought it would, then this episode is for you. Because today marks 33 years since my husband and I met. And because Valentine's Day is just around the corner, I wanted to talk about love and the energy of love, the way that it really is in real life. Not perfection for sure, not the idea of it, but what it actually is, because I believe that those relationships and that love is one of our greatest teachers. And it's a conversation we're going to talk about where spirit meets real life.
So self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today.
Welcome to Soul Talk, friends, where spirit meets real life. This is a place where we have honest conversations. We talk about conscious choice and we learn how to live with awareness and heart and humanity. I'm Sunny Dawn Johnson, and I'm so glad that you are here with me today. So, friends, today we are talking about relationships. And right now, what I want to really talk about is how important relationships are in our life. And we know that they shape us, right? Relationships are the things that stretch us. They bring us face to face with ourselves and with our challenges. And when we choose our partner, it is one of the most important decisions I believe you will ever make. When you choose that partnership, uh, and when we enter into relationship, I think most people enter it with the intention, whether we say this consciously or not, but with the intention that it's going to last. And it doesn't always, as we know. And even if you are somebody who has entered into relationships thinking it's going to last and it hasn't, uh, and even if you recognize that maybe I'm not just a great chooser, I think some people kind of get to that place. I'm just not a great chooser. What I want you to recognize is you have for sure learned, and you have for sure grown, and you haven't wasted your time. And I think this is important for all of us to hear and all of us to be reminded of, that each relationship serves purpose. And now it's learning how to step in and expand into this purpose. So today's conversation is going to be focused on relationships and on love specifically. And I thought I would share a little bit about my love story and the way that my husband and I met, because we met 33 years ago today. And so here's the story. And some of the story might surprise some of you because many of you know me in the way that you know me. And so you might be like, really, Sunny? That's what went on? Yeah, this is how it happened. So 33 years ago today, I was living in Tucson, Arizona. And at that time, I had an almost 3-year-old little boy. I was a single mom, and I was struggling being a single mom. I was struggling with self-esteem and self-worth and value and purpose and what's the point. I was struggling with my son, who was almost 3 and was wild as hell. I was struggling with, like, having a job that mattered, lots of insecurity. And I had just started, maybe 2 weeks earlier, I had just become aware of a place in Tucson. It was called the Wild Wild West. You guys just use your imagination. The Wild Wild West was a local bar and dance place. It was a great big bar and dance place. So it had a country area and it had a rock area, and it was a really cool place. And one of my neighbors kind of felt sorry for me because I never went anywhere or did anything, and she said, "Hey, you can come and go out with us for our birthday." This was like 2 weeks earlier. And it was like on a Wednesday night. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go. And I was 21, but I'd never actually gone to a bar. I'd never done any of those things because I was a mom. And I didn't have any friends. I had just moved to Arizona about 8 months before. So I didn't really have any friends. I didn't know anybody. So I went to this bar and it was on a Wednesday night. And on a Wednesday night, they had um, this contest that was going on in the bar. It was called the tight jeans contest, and so there were a bunch of girls there that were in this contest that got up on stage and they wore their tight jeans, and they were making money, good money. So remember, 33 years ago, they would make, I think it was 150 if you were in third place, 300 if you were in second place, and 4 or 500 if you were in first place. And that like got me thinking, like, I wear tight jeans. I could totally do this. And so that's where the next week I went in on Wednesday and I'm like, I'm going to make this my job. I'm actually going to go. I was working for my dad, but that wasn't fun. And so I thought I'm going to go on Wednesday nights and I'm going to go do this tight jeans contest. And so I did. So I did it one week. And then the next week happened to be February 3rd. And so I went to do the tight jeans contest. I was talking to a gal there who knew the ropes. She happened to be a dancer also. And she was kind of showing me, telling me, where you go, what you do, smile, all the things. Cause I really didn't know. I was young. I was 21. And, uh, and we started walking around this bar. And as we walked into this one area, there was a guy sitting on a bar stool with a friend of his talking. And I just went up to him and started talking. And that's kind of my nature. Y'all know I'm a little, I'm friendly. And so I started talking to him, and he kind of a little bit, kind of didn't really pay as much attention to me. That probably, pushed my button a little bit, which made me want to talk to him more. Now think about us when we were 21, right? Um, then it was time for me to go and do the contest, and so I did. So this was the second time, only the second time I'd ever done this. And so we got up, we did the contest, and so then the way that they would decide who won for second or third place was by the cheering. So when I went up and I had some tight jeans, guys, you couldn't fit anything in those jeans besides this body, and that was it. I was screaming, and I won. I won first place, and I can't remember if it was 400 or 500 bucks. And at that time, guys, some of you know my history. I had been a single mom for the last 3 years, and I had been on food stamps and welfare and had struggled a lot of my journey. And so to be able to go to this place, have fun for a few hours, make some money, get some attention, like all these things, it was like win-win to me. And this guy that I was talking to, asked me for my number. But I had made an agreement with myself when I moved to Tucson that I would not date anybody for at least a year because I was really messed up in my head around value and connection with partnership and being in relationship, and he was an alcoholic and an addict, and so I struggled with that, and so I said you can't date anybody, and so I wouldn't give him my number. But he had told me enough that I knew where he was. I knew what his I knew the idea of where he was working. He was construction, and he was actually right down the street from my house. And so that night ended, and we had a great night, and we had fun. And he gave me a little kiss on my neck, and it made me aware that I had some feelings. And so then that night and the next morning, I struggled because I'd made this promise to myself I wasn't going to date anybody. And I didn't know if I should go find him, if I should reach out, but I knew that that feeling, I hadn't felt that feeling even with, I hadn't had a lot of experience, even though I was a teenage mom, I hadn't had a lot of experience in relationships. And that feeling felt right. And so I followed my intuition. My intuition said, go find his job site. And I felt like I needed an excuse. So I, I went and bought a bunch of Subway sandwiches and I found his job site and I took him to the job site and I gave him to all the guys that were working with him. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And, I think that a lot of times we don't always you can't plan for things like this, right? You never know who is going to be that person at that time, who's going to be your best friend, who's going to be the person that you start working for, who's going to be, the lover in your life, who's going to be there for a long time. And I'd not really thought about a relationship because I'd had so much pain and trauma around that and because I was a single mom, I didn't want to be bringing guys home and things like that, which is why I had such a strong boundary. But then he asked me for my number after that, and I decided to give it to him, even though it was 10 months into my 1 year commitment. My spirit was really like, "It's okay, Sonny. You've stayed committed to yourself for this amount of time." And I knew. I was like, "I don't know. There's something about this guy. I have to explore it." So, he lived in Phoenix. I lived in Tucson. That doesn't make it easy to explore. And we started to see each other. So he was building houses in Tucson, and he left for a few days for the weekend or whatever, and then he came back, and it was Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day right around the corner. So it was Valentine's Day, and on Valentine's Day he showed up at my house with one single rose, and I hadn't really had somebody that had taken the time to think about me in that way in my life, um, and to invest the time and energy that it took to literally come and drive to see me. So that really made a mark on me. And um and that this relationship quickly changed. So I kept doing those tight jeans contests for a couple of months, and I won every week. I either won first place or second place. So this was like my part-time job. And that's exactly how I looked at it. It worked perfect as a single parent. And then that relationship evolved, and within 2 months, we were living together. I moved to Phoenix, and I moved my son to Phoenix, and we started living together, and, 7 more months, we were married. And so that relationship evolved very, very quickly. I think some people struggle with, "Okay, well, it's going too fast." I think that when you know, and I don't think that we need to question if it's 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. I think that everybody does it in the right time and space for them. But I do think that choosing your partner is one of the greatest choices you can make. It impacts almost every aspect of your life. And what I really chose to do, and my husband actually this morning, we woke up and I said, "Hey, honey, happy anniversary." And he said, "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for finding me." And what that reminds me of is my intuition guided me. It always has. And when I've listened, catch that right there. When I've listened. My intuition told me it's okay. Let go of the idea of that 1 year commitment. It's time. It's okay. You can break that. And that this is worth it. This is valuable. This is necessary. This is right for you. And I feel very blessed that I did listen and that we've created a life together for the last 33 years. And one of the things that I want to share is that, yes, we have created a life together for 33 years, and we've had a pretty amazing life despite so many differences and challenges and tragedies, which we have experienced as well. And one thing that a lot of people are curious about, and I share a lot about in my private communities, is how different we are. Now, not only how different we are from how we used to be when we met, but how different we are from each other. Um, I would say if we were looking back, I am the one that has made the most change in my life, and changed really who I am, what I do. This career that I have created is very different than when he met me. When he met me, I was a single mom. I was raising a child. I was insecure. I was afraid of the world. I wasn't certain of my place. I didn't have a voice. Um, I was overweight. I was uncomfortable in so many areas. And we really came together at the right time and we've grown together. But in our growing together, we are very, very different people. So I have a little video because many of you haven't been a part of my life. You might be new here. And I just want to share this with you. This is just to give you an idea. I'm going to give you a few pictures of the life that we've created over the last 33 years. And I'm going to give you some tips that I've learned and that I'm still learning and that we're still learning because it's never ends. How to manage relationships when you are so different. And I'm sharing that because we have completely different belief systems. We are not aligned with, I'm psychic medium, spiritual teacher, practice intuitive development. I teach, I travel all over the world and I speak and I teach on this subject. And he's not into any of it, none of it at all. And so, how do you maintain a happy, joyful, adventurous, loving relationship with somebody who is so different from you? I'm going to share that with you. This is just a little short video of what we have actually created together. So, this is me when I first got married. That was my wedding dress. And here are just some of those are our two sons. The one on the left was my son when I met my husband. This is the family that has expanded into this family. This is our youngest son that we created together. And these are just some of the visuals of an intentional life together. And many people, when they look at us, see happy and joy and connection and love. And I'm grateful for that. And we've had to work on it. We have different interests. We have different belief systems. We have different ways of thinking. We are definitely wired different emotionally. And here's what I've learned. My husband is one of my great teachers. And I think he's a great teacher because he isn't just like me. Um, I don't think that we're supposed to only surround ourselves with people that are like us and think like us and be like us. I think we're supposed to surround ourselves with people that give us expansion and contrast and experience. And I don't believe we're attracted to our partners just because of comfort. Comfort is one thing, and that's beautiful, but actually for growth. So, consciously or unconsciously, we choose people in our lives who will expand us. And I hope that helps some of you that maybe are like, gosh, I keep choosing these hard people or these things that are not working for me. Yes, they're going to challenge you. And yes, they're going to reflect back to you some of the things that you are here to learn. And they're probably going to bump into every single wound you've ever had. And if you're willing, if you are really willing, those same relationships are the ones that will help you to heal. Okay? They're the ones that will help you to heal. So, one of the things that I learned from my husband, his name is Brett, is that he wasn't here. Like, do you guys remember that show? I can't remember what it's called. Like, You Complete Me. And it's like this whole romantic idea. And it was with Tom Cruise and somebody. I can't remember the name of the show. Maybe you guys do. And that was the goal, "You complete me," and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so great." Like, no, the partner's not here to complete us. We're already complete. Our partner is here to walk beside us while we learn and while we grow. And so as we are choosing our partners, recognizing how influential that relationship is in our lives even if, because this is my case, even if you didn't choose well in the past, right? So, m my son's birth father was an alcoholic. He was not a bad guy, he just was an addict. He had addiction issues, and that didn't work for me, right? But those relationships, that relationship taught me so much, and it taught me I got incredible value even though it was so hard and so uncomfortable. And so all of our relationships are teaching us, but that love relationship, friends, that's the one that I really want to talk about here because I believe that where we struggle the most is where there is the most opportunity for expansion and for growth and for healing and for light to come in, and that our partners are gonna bump up against those things that we really need to heal, that we need to let go of, that we need to, see in a different light or shift the perspective of. Now, I'm not saying if it's like a constant fight every second, but I am saying what's being reflected, right? And are you willing to look at that? So, some of the challenges and some of the struggles, and I just thought, I'm gonna be, open and transparent because it's how I am and who I am. But some of the challenges that we have had in our lives, and there've been enough, um, were around communication, number 1, um, differences, seeing things differently, um, probably expectations, and when those struggles went on, um, it was most of the time due to not communicating in the same way or at the same time. And I don't think that struggle means that we're failing. I think it means that that something is asking to be seen. Something is asking to be looked at. So I can say that one of the greatest things that I had to learn was I had to learn how to let go of control. Having come from a very controlling environment, being raised in a very controlling environment, with a dad that wanted to control every single thing that I did, that I had to let go of control, letting go of control of outcomes and timing and the way things should look. And what I recognized is control was blocking the connection, it was blocking the intimacy, and it was really coming from a fear-based place. I always had underlying this fear, like, I wasn't gonna be good enough, and so I would try to control everything to feel safe, and maybe you can relate to that. And what I needed to start doing is I needed to surrender into things as they were. And that I don't think means giving up your voice, but I do think it means trusting yourself and trusting the relationship enough to like breathe into it and to allow and to not try to force. My husband lovingly called me Julie, the cruise director, from the Love Boat. Yes, because that's how much I liked to be in charge and in control, and that's something that I've had to work on releasing, especially in our relationship. I recognize that oftentimes when I was trying to control him, I was showing up as a mother. And you do not want, and I don't think it's healthy, to have a relationship with your partner where you are mothering or fathering each other. That really blocks a lot of the intimacy as well. And and so with that letting go of control, learning how to let go of control, and his part has been to learn how to communicate his feelings. He didn't have a safe environment to communicate his feelings, and he had some serious traumas with the loss of his mother and his sister within a year of each other when he was 12, both of them dying. That communication and expressing emotions was not existent. It didn't happen. And so both of us, right, as partners in your relationships, you have to learn how to come together and have some give and take. And part of learning that is really recognizing how you can start to make um, some of those shifts. And I want to share with you an experience that we had that really actually changed the journey for us in the sense of being so different. So, me coming from being a spiritual teacher and a spiritual guide and helping people develop their intuition and things like that, which is very, very foreign to my husband. He doesn't have any interest in it. It's something that he doesn't acknowledge. It's something that he doesn't believe in for himself. However, he supports me and everything that I do and always has. But this is challenging for a lot of people. People have a tendency to have the idea that we need to be the same and that we need to do things in the same way and that we can't be that different because it's so difficult. And I'm of a different belief system. I'm of the belief system that when we are in relationship with people that are different than us, that it calls us into the greatest depth of unconditional love that you can experience. When you can love someone, when you can see them in whichever light they're in, that you can see that they see things in a completely different perspective than you do. And you can have love for them. That is unconditional love. And I believe that our relationship has required both of us to experience that energy of unconditional love, to not feel like we need to change someone to be more like us, but instead to appreciate the fact that they are offering us and reflecting a different perspective that isn't right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just different. And so I want to share a story with you that happened years ago that I think I learned a lot from, and maybe you will too. So we were heading to Tucson because we lived in Phoenix, and this was probably I must have been about 30, 31 maybe. I had just started teaching professionally on communicating with angels, and I kinda opened the door to my spiritual closet, right? I started sharing, "This is what I do." I started teaching classes, and I started doing energy work, and, like, I stepped into all of the work that I was meant to do. My husband, we were driving down the road heading to Tucson. It's a 2-hour drive from Phoenix. And about an hour into the drive, he said to me, he said, "What are you working on?" And I was like, "Oh, he asked." Because even though I have the awareness now that we're not meant to change each other, and that it actually has brought more unconditional love into our lives, at that time felt like if we just thought the same way and felt the same way and did the same things, that our lives would be so much better. And so when he asked me, "What are you working on?" I went into a full long, hour long explanation about the angels and the afterlife and the hierarchy and the different frequencies and like all of it because I'm like, "Oh, he asked, so door open." Because I would never share if he didn't ask, because I really honored that boundary of his belief system. But because he asked, then I was like, "Okay, open door." I shared. And at the end of my hour-long explanation, um, he said to me, he said, "I didn't need all that. I was just wondering what you were working on. I don't really want to hear all those things." Something to that effect. I can't remember his exact words, but that was the gist of it. And whoo, did I get pissed off, friends. Man, I was pissed off. Can you relate to this? Like, you don't care about what I'm doing. You don't want to know what it is that I'm working on. Like, if you can't be there and you can't just support me, then I don't know if this is going to work. That's what came out of my mouth. And he's very calm. He's very grounded. Okay, guys, I'm fire. He's earth. Okay. And he's like, "I didn't say I didn't support you. And it isn't that I am not accepting you the way you are. I'm just saying that I'm not really interested in the details of any of that." And I was furious. I was so pissed off. And so we got to Tucson, and it was not a great Easter. I'm just going to tell you. I didn't talk to him the whole time we were there. I didn't talk to him once we drove home. I was so mad. And I was questioning myself, like, what are you so upset about, Sonny? What is the, like, what's really going on? And after a while, I really did have fear because there were so many teachers at that time. So this was just starting, and kind of the not that there hadn't been people before, but this was really I had just stepped into teaching and training, and there were not a lot of teachers that were out doing this. But the few that were saying, you need to be around people that are of like minds, and you can't be in relationship with people that don't honor and don't believe what you believe. So I had these seeds planted that he has to be like me, and if he's not like me, then this isn't going to work, especially in a marriage. And so I think that's what it was my fear that got so activated, because I was like, oh my God, we've only been married a few years, and you're not coming along, like you're not coming with me, and you of course should come with me, right? So after a few days, I was tired of being that way, and I was tired of the disconnect, and it felt exhausting, and that's never felt good to me. I'm sure it's never felt good to you. And so I finally asked Spirit, because that's what I do. As I go here and I ask Spirit, I'm like, okay, I need a different perspective. I need a different way to look at this. I need a shift of some sort. Help me. And this was the guidance that Spirit gave me. And I hope that this gives maybe some support for any of you that have struggled with this. And the image that like, it was a whole story, but what's basically what Spirit gave to me was, my husband grew up in Wisconsin, and he was a hunter, fisherman, did all the things. They were always outside, and they were always bringing food in for the family. And they said, Sonny, if Brett loved hunting, if it was like the thing that made him feel connected and feel valuable and feel worthy, and feel good, and he just enjoyed it, you would be very grateful. You would be happy for him when he would go and do that thing, because you knew that it was feeding his soul, that it was filling him up. Okay, yep, that's true. I would. And I believe that he also feels happy for me when I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Yep, that makes sense. Click, got it. But, and you wouldn't want him to hang the deer in your garage and then have you come out and say, okay, now this is what I'm doing. I was here and I was waiting for the deer. And like, you wouldn't want the play by play. You wouldn't want to see it. You wouldn't want to hear any of the story about it. You would just want to know that he had an experience that made him filled up, that he feels good about, and you'd be grateful for that. Right. Yep. That's exactly true. And he doesn't wanna hear your story either. And friends, that was it. Boom. Got it. Got it. I would never wanna hear that. I was a vegetarian at that time, guys. I had been a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for 32 years. So, that was really impactful for me, that it wasn't that what he was doing was wrong or bad, but it doesn't resonate with me. So I wouldn't want to be involved in the moment to moment, day to day, hour to hour experience of what that looks like. And neither did he. And there was nothing wrong with that. And I want you to just take that in for a minute, because when we can recognize that people have all different kinds of life experiences and life choices, and they all are standing in different shoes from different realities, that for us to project how they need to be, especially the person that you have chosen to be with for your life, and that we know better than them for their soul's journey. Well, what I learned is that wasn't the case. Now, I share that story with you because as soon as Spirit brought that message, that answer, that guidance to me, it completely changed. And I never felt that same feeling of he needs to be like me. Never again. And we have been able to honor each other's journeys, being so very different, having such different belief systems. And a lot of people are very curious about that. And what I want to suggest for those of you now, you can take this into any relationship. I have people of all types around me. I have people that see things differently politically, which is a big topic right now. I have people that see things different sexually. I have people that see things different in they want to be single versus being married. I have people that see things different in the kinds of work that they want to do or not. There's the difference isn't wrong. It's it's contrast. And I love that. And can we be more open and respectful? So that was one of the biggest lessons for me that I hope brings some value to you. Now, here's another thing when we went through some of our tough times, because, okay, we've been together 33 years, and I think that most people that are in our circles would say that we are one of the probably most loving and healthy relationships that they are around. I hear that oftentimes by people around us because we genuinely do have this energy of love and appreciation and respect. Now, also, sarcasm is our love language for sure. One of them, like we're always back and forth and playing, but laughter and fun and joy and adventure, those are critical to our relationship. And one of the other things that I think was very helpful in relationship, because remember, I talked about this a little bit ago, is that our spouses or our partners or our close relationships, they're going to show up to help us learn and to help us to heal and to help us to let go of those wounds that or to heal those wounds that have manifested throughout our lives in different ways. And oftentimes in doing that, what they do is they reflect it. And so one of the other tools that helped me so much was the Five Love Languages. The Five Love Languages is a book that you can go and Google. They've sold multiple millions of those books. And it was one of the most helpful things that we did as a couple to start to understand and to learn how we expressed love differently because my husband, so there's five different, to give you just a big quick overview, five different ways that we express love. So that's through physical touch, hugging, touching, kiss, sex, things like that. We have words of aspiration or words of inspiration. So positive feedback. You look so great. Thank you so much. Complimentary messages. We have acts of service, doing something for someone. We have quality of time, spending time with each other. And then we have buying gifts. So those are the five love languages. And how each one of you gives love and how each one of you receives love isn't always the same. So you may desire to receive love in one way, but you give love likely in the way that you were taught when you were younger. And so we were out of alignment in our love languages. We luckily learned this early on. My love language was acts of service and and quality of time. So I would invest my time and I would spend my time and I would do things. I would take care of the house. I would take care of the kids. I would do all the stuff, right? So that's how I showed love. But what I wanted back was those same things, acts of service and quality of time. Well, my husband worked a lot at that time, so didn't get that. And because he worked a lot, there weren't a lot of acts of service. Now, my husband's love language was physical touch. And so he wanted the physical touch, and I wanted the acts of service. And when again, just little Cliff Notes version, when you are in a relationship and you're not getting what you want, even though love is being expressed, it's not being received in the way that it was intended. And so then often you don't feel like you are filled up. You don't feel like you're loved, not because you aren't, but because it's not showing up in the way that you would recognize it. And this was absolutely true for us. And so we had to recognize that and learn how to start to acknowledge the love that was showing up and why it was showing up. And one of the ways that we did that that was very helpful was we started a practice, especially when we were having difficult times. Sometimes it would fade out when things got better and then it would come back in. And that was being appreciative. It was appreciation. Appreciation is the key, I believe, to keeping love alive. Not these great big things, this great big trip or date night once a week, because a lot of times that's obligatory. It's out of obligation. Like, yeah, I gotta go. We gotta go on a date night because that's what she wants or that's what he wants or and you're not really as present for it. And sometimes you are. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but what I found is that appreciation is the key. And you don't have to do it perfectly, you don't have to do it constantly, but you do want to create that appreciation so that your partner and so that you feel seen, feel valued, feel heard, feel acknowledged. And when you start to shift into appreciation, everything changes because then you don't need as much of all the other things because you feel it. And when you feel it and you're grounded in it, guys, you're not looking for, oh, I need him to bring me flowers every Friday to know that I'm loved because you feel that within you. Appreciation appreciates. It grows and it grows in our hearts and it grows in our minds and you feel it. So those small little acknowledgments, those soften the hard times, the difficult things. And I think you can have love without appreciation in the sense that maybe you're not expressing it, but I don't think it thrives there. At least it didn't in my life. The other thing I want to acknowledge is that you cannot change your partner and you're not meant to change your partner. If you want change, you're meant to change yourself, not your partner. You focus on you focus on your work, you focus on your healing, and they either rise to the occasion or they don't. And that's how you begin to know if it's time to stay or it's time to move on or it's time to make some changes or it's time to have a conversation or what have you. Um, when I stopped trying to change him, which did happen in the beginning of our relationship, I was young. And I was young, I was raising a child, and I was still a child myself. But when I started to instead of trying to change him, then I started noticing when I started listening to my intuition really and focusing on myself and paying attention to what I wanted that I was saying I wanted from him, and I started giving it to me. I want you to hear that. I started giving it to me. And when I started giving it to me, I didn't have to hold him responsible for my happiness, hold him responsible for my joy, hold him responsible for my peace, hold him responsible for my safety. I was in charge of my life, and it was my responsibility. And so now here we are 33 years later, and life looks a lot different than it did. We have 2 sons, we have 3 grandchildren. Um, my husband's been retired for 15 years. I, have a much bigger career than I ever planned to. I was planned to be a stay-at-home mom. Our relationship and our love is deeper, and I think it's quieter. It's absolutely more grounded, and it is less about, like, doing all these things, and it's so much more about, like, being present and choosing each other every single day, choosing each other. My husband, said something, a few years ago, well, probably about 10 years ago now that I've always resonated with, and it's true for both of us. In our marriage, what our goal has been and what works for us is to wake up each morning with the intention to make our partner's life better, easier, happier. And when we do that with an open heart, we choose each other and we also are choosing ourselves because when we have a connection and a desire to be in love and be in light and be connected with each other, and we show up in that way, then we get that energy back. So it kind of is an exchange, like an infinity, and it just flows back and forth. That doesn't mean that we still don't have difficult times, but man, do we have very rarely do we have those anymore. It just it doesn't happen in the same way. So I hope that this conversation brought a little bit of light, maybe some tools and some insight. 33 years uh, being in this partnership, it's shocking to me that it's been 33 years. Like life is flying by, friends. And so if there's that thing you want to do, you want to get in a relationship, you want to go on a trip, you want to be a part of this thing, you want to learn this thing, guys, life is it's going. So jump on board, do that thing, connect with those people, open your heart, give it a shot. If you are making people that are standing in front of you in your now moment pay for what the people behind you did, you're losing. Let the people around you be your teachers. There's always something to learn. And even if it's hard and even if it hurts, you're learning. Okay. You're learning. All right, friends. So this is our time where we transition. We transition from our conversation to our heart to heart space. So, this is a place where you can ask a question about life, purpose, change, fear, or anything in between. And you have the opportunity, if you're live with me right now, you can ask your question. You just push that button on the computer. If you want to use the chat and ask a question, this is our heart to heart time. So any question that you have, you get to ask. So
I'm too hard with Sunday, where your voice is heard. Songs or conversations, life in every word. Bring your questions, bring your truth. We're here to explore. Heart to heart with Sunday. Open up the door.
all right, heart to heart with Sunny. So we've got some questions, friends. Again, if you are on live right now, you can push that button. I don't remember what it says, but it's like go live with Sunny or something like that so that you can ask your question. And if not, you can just ask the question in the chat. You can also send in your questions and then I will go through those later on. I do have a couple of questions that have been sent in, so I will address one or two of those depending on the amount of time that I have. But let's look at some of our questions. Okay, here's one. When do you know whether you should walk or stay? I worked on it and felt I was getting nowhere. Um, I don't think there's an exact moment or time where you know. What I think is that your intuition guides you step by step by step. And so I'm going to change the question to how do you know? um, you listen to your intuition. What often happens, and the reason you're not sure is because you go between your head and your heart. You bop back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Your spirit, your intellect, your spirit, your intellect. And your intuition is usually going to be the thing that doesn't make the most sense. I'm going to give you an example. When I was in relationship with my son's birth father, I was with him for 3 years. Even though he was around, he wasn't there. And so I was definitely the single mom. And I was also the only one working. I worked 3 jobs to try to make ends meet and was still on food stamps and welfare because of that. And I knew in my heart I was not supposed to be there. My intuition over and over and over and over and over again said, Sunny, this is not for you. But my self-esteem and my self-value I did not have enough love for myself to do anything different at that time. I wasn't capable of it. And so my head would say, yeah, but he might change. Yeah, but he's had a hard life. Yeah, but if you only got better, if you only did this, then A, B, C, D, E, F, G would happen. So I knew here, but I couldn't listen to it. And my head got louder than my intuition. I drowned out my intuition. I started disconnecting from it. I started pushing spirit away because I didn't want to hear that answer. Because on some level, I felt like I could save him. And I think oftentimes we get in relationships with people that distract us from ourselves. So what I started doing was I started working on myself. And as I worked on myself, I got enough value and I got enough esteem to start to step into what was really actually necessary for me and for my son, right? So I don't think it's oh, here's a big sign, it's time to go. I think it happens inside and it's usually quieter than this up here because intuition comes in gently. It's not this great big loud thing most of the time. Once in a while it is, but not most of the time. So listen to your heart, listen to your spirit. And it's usually the thing that probably is going to be harder. Okay. It's going to be harder. All right. Next question. I've been along for so long. I'm scared to even try. Oh, I've been alone for so long. I'm scared to even try. What would you suggest for me to start connecting to a potential partner? I love this question. Thank you for asking it. I would suggest starting to get focused on what you desire to feel in your relationship. And I would suggest creating a list of exactly how you want to feel. Now, I actually have an outline for this that I've created, like a process. If you email me, anybody that's listening to this podcast right now, if you email me at sunny@schooloflight.biz and you just put in the subject line podcast 4 or soul talk 4, I will send you the outline of exactly what I would suggest you do, because this is exactly what I did to attract my husband in. Now, I was focused on waiting a year. He showed up in 10 months. But it was the exact process I went through to bring him in. And to just give you a gist of it is you create your list of how you want to feel in the relationship. And once you have that list, you start to bring that energy in every single day. And there's a variety of different steps that I would ask you to do to bring that energy in. And for me, that's exactly how I attracted my husband. So when I first met him, as soon as I met him, I knew there was a knowing. Now, I didn't necessarily know he was going to be my husband and, we'd live forever and be together 33 years later. I didn't know that. But what I did know is there was a pull and I was pulled right to him, which is why he always thanks me for coming to him, because he never would have come to me. Right? Like that was the connection. So if you are interested, any of you that are listening, if you're interested, sunny@schooloflight.biz, and then just put Soul Talk 4 or Podcast 4, and we will send you that manifestation list. All right. Great, great question. Okay. Do I have any other questions? You guys are scared to come on live, aren't you? I think you are. Okay. All right. So I don't think I have any other questions. But what I want to encourage you is that if you're feeling that pull, guys, there's a reason for that. And don't let your past pain hold you back from tomorrow's joy. Don't let your past pain hold you back from tomorrow's joy. Please, you deserve that. Okay. So if you are live in studio with me, then click on that button that says go live and I can bring you in. And I'm going to answer one more question while I am uh, waiting, because I see that there's somebody that's wanting to come on live. So let's see if we can get you in. Here's one of the questions. How do I stop? This is a deep question, friends. I don't know if I can answer this right in this short amount of time, but maybe I could do a podcast on it. How do I stop repeating the same patterns? That's a simple and very difficult question. But here's my simplest answer is the way you stop repeating the same pattern. The first thing you have to do is you have to become aware of it. You have to become aware of the fact that you're repeating the pattern, which just asking that question tells me that you have that awareness. Okay. So you have to become aware of the fact that you're repeating that pattern. And then what we do is we're going to do a deep dive into where is that pattern coming from. Most often it is historical, meaning you probably learned it way back when. Now, as far as stopping repeating it, the most important piece, and I talked quite a bit about this, I think in the first podcast, is you have to be present. You have to be present to have the awareness. You also have to be present to change the pattern. Because if you're not present, you can't change the pattern. You can't change what you're going to do because your subconscious is just going to pop in. And it's just going to, that's the kind of the software that's running in the background. And it's just going to do what it does, which is going to do what it's always known, what it's comfortable with, what feels safe. That's what's going to happen. So if you're wanting to stop patterns, then you, number one, have to have the awareness around the pattern. And number two, you need to be in present moment so that you can actually then be conscious enough to change the pattern. Okay. That's a really, really great question. Patterns are fascinating. I could talk all day on them. So maybe I'll do a podcast on it. I think that's a great question. Because when you start seeing that pattern, and I think maybe this is connected to relationship, like, okay, I keep attracting the same kind of people with a different face. Yes, that's a pattern. And you're attracting those same kind of people with a different face because there's something inside of you that has something to learn. It's just information, not judgment, not you're wrong, not you're bad, just, okay, there's something for me to learn here, right? Something for me to learn here. Okay. All right, friends. Those were great questions. I hope you got lots and lots of value. And so to wrap up, as we're coming to a close today, I just want to take a moment first to just thank you. Thank all of you that are live in studio. You guys, you can come in live in studio every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time until March, and then it will be noon Pacific Time. But on Tuesdays, you can come in, join us. You can ask questions. You can be in the chat with everybody else so that you have kind of some fun things. You might be watching this in other places. That's great too. YouTube, Facebook, etc. We are really grateful that you're here. I am really grateful that you're here. And thank you for being willing to look at energy and at love and at relationships and life and looking at it honestly. Um, Thanks for honoring your own growth and for choosing awareness, We'll be here every Tuesday, same time, same place. And please remember, when we allow our divinity to guide our humanity, love becomes the thing that we live, something we live every single day. And you are not alone. I love you all. I'm grateful for you to be here. I'd love to see your comments. If this is something that touched your heart, if it's something that you got value from, please like, share, subscribe, let others know. I greatly appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
So self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today.